Look, I know it was Hawaii, but Michigan impressed me from what I saw and the stats that I looked at from everything that I investigated. Michigan impressed me, and I know it's Hawaii, and I know the previous game was Colorado State, but let me explain. Every year, college football analysts, writers, fans have good and bad predictions, because unless you are a true insider with every team, which is impossible, you are going to get some things right and wrong. Of course, some people, the better ones, get more things right than they do wrong. One of the things that I got wrong was Nebraska, being high on them, and I'm so glad that I had Minnesota as a close second, because Minnesota now looks like what I thought Nebraska was going to be, in that they look like they're far and away the best team in the West right now. And it's still early, but just from what I see, Minnesota looks like they're dangerous in the West. Nebraska's 1-2, and Frosty the Snowman's melted away. So that prediction aged about as well as milk sitting out in the hot summer sun in Mexico City. So just pretend that didn't happen. Michigan, on the other hand, and again, it's early, so my predictions that have survived still need to bear fruit. But Michigan, their offense, and JJ now being named the starter, these predictions of mine about Michigan's offense seem to be bearing fruit already. JJ McCarthy, only one game in, and he's the starter for the rest of the year. By one game in, I mean like he was only the backup for one game. They made the switch. They tested him out. It only took one game where he started to determine that he is the guy. And Cade McNamara, I do not like a certain segment of this fan base because of the hate that they have given Cade. And Cade does not deserve that hate. And at the same time, I can say that in this game against, yes, the worst college football team in the nation, but in this game, J.J. McCarthy proved that he is the starting guy. And as long as some of his mental errors and some of his freshman mistakes have been fixed, he's absolutely the better QB. 11 of 12, 229 yards, 3 touchdowns, video game stats. He has a passer rating on the year of close to 300, including this game and the ones in Colorado State. Against 0 opponents, J.J. McCarthy looks like one of the best QBs in the country. Now we have to see how he operates and how he does against better defenses, against Big Ten competition. We all have yet to see this, so I'm not giving out a September Heisman or an October Heisman. I'm not giving out a September national title ring or Big Ten champion. I'm not doing any of that. All I'm saying is Michigan's offense is efficient. They looked much better here than they did against Colorado State. And yes, it's Hawaii, but Colorado State isn't a good team either. And the offense looked much improved from game 1 to game 2. And the difference was McCarthy. The passing, the element that he has in the passing game is now unquestioned, especially seeing that Cade got sacked 2 times and threw a pick in the drives that he was in. Absolutely. He, compared to McCarthy, does not have the same athletic ability, the same passing ability, and maybe now McCarthy truly has matured enough to where he has the same or higher football IQ than Cade. By leadership, don't think so, because Cade was voted as a captain. So leadership, I would still give Cade the edge there, but maybe it's not as big as some people think. So I don't know. All I can tell you is that JJ's the starter, which I said in the preseason that I was convinced that he was going to be the starter based off of Cade's play in the spring game, and the Colorado State game just reinforced that for me. And that this offense, with him there, but even without him there, still has capacity for explosive plays. This team, the defense looks solid. I want to see it tested more, same with the offense, but this team seems to, it has a chance to be more dynamic and scarier than last year's team from an offensive perspective, which overall would make it scarier because the game is more of an offensive game now. It would give Michigan a chance to do things that they weren't even able to do last year, which was be competitive in a playoff game. You need good offense and a good QB to do that. And again, I'm not handing out awards, but this game, I mean, Michigan made it look like it was an open practice. It was effortless. The highlights I watched, the bits of the game I watched, it was delayed. I was focused on Nebraska, Georgia Southern, so this game was more so in the back of my mind. But from what I saw, there was no ounce of competitiveness. Nothing. 42-0 at the half. Even in the second quarter, there were some second string players in here. This was an open practice, a business trip. That's what this was. So if I'm not talking about the game or getting into specifics for drives, I'm going to be talking about statistics, of course, when doing the analysis, which will start right now. But yeah, this game was an open practice. Hawaii, I don't even really want to talk about them. They are 0-3. They're probably going to go 0-13. They're terrible. They are trash. They are absolute trash. And Michigan didn't beat them. Like, they didn't hang 63 on them like Vanderbilt did, but Vanderbilt hung most of those 63 points in the second half. It was 42-0 at the half for Michigan, and Michigan, by the second quarter, was already taking their foot off the gas. That's how bad Hawaii is. Hawaii trailed 42-0 at the half, and they probably could have been trailing 63 or 70 at the half if Michigan had their full foot on the gas and if there wasn't the rain delay. Because those rain delays, look at 2017 Michigan State versus Penn State. Those can bog teams down. They really can. And I think that, especially it already being a night game, delaying it to start until like around 9, I think is when it started, that can be big. But anyway, J.J. McCarthy has officially won the quarterback battle. It's over. It's absolutely over. And Harbaugh said it. Everyone else agrees. Cade McNamara had a QB rating of 1.8. Spencer Petras level play is what he had versus Hawaii. Davis Warren outplayed McNamara, which we actually saw some of that even in the spring game. J.J. McCarthy, 11 of 12, 229 yards, 19.1 yards per pass, 3 touchdowns, a 99.2 QB rating. And if you go by this game solely, I think McCarthy might have like the highest QB rating in the country. And I'm not saying he's the best in the country. Again, Hawaii's terrible. So some of this is totally an illusion. Totally. I mean, Davis Warren, who's the third stringer at Michigan, 2 of 4 for 65 yards, 16.3 yards per pass. He had a 96.6 QB rating. There's not enough of a sample size to declare McCarthy as he's still an unknown. But from what we've seen, he's good. He didn't turn over the ball at all versus Hawaii. His throws were perfect or near perfect. And he didn't run a whole lot either, and he really didn't need to because of the good O-line he has, and because Blake Corum, CJ Stokes, Isaiah Gash, Donovan Edwards, even Roman Wilson were running and tearing it up on the ground. Michigan overall passed for 320 yards, for 14.5 yards per pass average. They rushed for 268 yards, 8.1 yards per carry, 5 rushing touchdowns. It was, an open practice. It was absolutely an open practice. Michigan's defense had 59 total tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 7 passes defended, and a QB hurry. And since Hawaii mostly got 3 and outs, because I think they punted I think they punted 10 times. Yeah, they punted 10 times. Hawaii punted 10 times for 405 yards. Hawaii punted for nearly double the amount of yards that they had total yards in the game. So not a whole lot of opportunities for tackles for losses and sacks, especially since Hawaii's quarterback threw 36 passes, total of 37 actually, because another guy, a running back, I think on a trick play, had an incompletion. So Hawaii threw 36 7 passes and only completed 13 of them. So lots of punting. Michigan's defense couldn't really get a whole lot of sacks or tackles for loss there. The game was an open practice. Michigan wasn't tested in really any capacity like Ohio State was against Arkansas State, where some things were exposed and you could really learn lessons. There really wasn't that here. That's how uncompetitive this game was. Hawaii is far and away the worst team in college football. They're the lowest in the FPI. They're the most inefficient team according to ESPN. They're terrible. They're gutter trash. And with how they treat their football program, if Hawaii fans even exist, please comment down below. Your athletic administration does not care about your football program. They don't. They clearly do not. They did not even want to give out enough money to pay a real modern college football head coaching salary. This team, the Hawaii football team, is in grave danger. It's not even in grave danger. It's just in a state of utter despair and gunk. It's honestly like cat litter that has been sitting outside for years. That's how bad that program is. So Michigan beating it 56-10. I wanted them to score more points, obviously, because covering the spread, A, which I always love it when my team covers the spread, and B, Hawaii's Hawaii. And hang some points while you can. Score. Get some more guys out there and have them score. But it's a victory. It was dominant. It very easily could have been 73-10 or 73-3 or 7. Michigan just decided that they weren't going to do that. But impressive in the sense of you got to see what J.J. McCarthy could do. And even then, this really just was an open practice. We don't have a whole lot that we have learned about this Michigan team yet, which segues into the ramifications and some thoughts for the future of this team. J.J. McCarthy's the starting QB moving forward. I think Cade is likely going to transfer. I don't know, if he'll do it in the middle of the year, after the season. I don't know. I mean, I think it would be cool if he at least did it after the season, if he does it because he's a team captain, but he should do what's best for him. And I don't know what's best for him, but to a certain degree, it almost sounds like what would be best for him if he wants a career after college in football would probably be transferring now? Not a big expert on the portal, but that's what it would sound like. And I say that because I think that Cade does have potential to start at other Power 5 programs. I absolutely believe that. Cade last year was competent. He was above average. This season, the Colorado State game, yeah, he made some mistakes, but he was average in that game. And there's an argument to be made that he was really feeling pressure. Really feeling pressure in that game and in the Hawaii game. And that obviously affected his performance. I will support that argument, actually. But Cade could start at other Power 5 programs, so if he can start there, why shouldn't he take an opportunity to start there since McCarthy has taken over? I respect Cade. I love the kid for his leadership, for bringing Michigan to a playoff appearance, for being, thus far, the best Michigan QB in the Jim Harbaugh era. And the best Michigan QB in the Jim Harbaugh era was just benched for someone who might now be the best QB in the Jim Harbaugh era, and probably will be. So seeing this upward trend of QB play makes me very happy, because Michigan QB play has been one of the critical weaknesses of the Jim Harbaugh era, and hopefully with McCarthy and others in recruiting, hopefully that can no longer be the case for Michigan, and there's a very good chance that it can be that way with some 2024 prospects that they are targeting. McCarthy's athletic ability is superb, and his passing game is very impressive. We've really already went over this. He had an average of nearly 20 yards per pass. Michigan wide receivers had a long of 54, 56, 42, 33. Ronnie Bell with 31. Most of those long passes were by J.J. McCarthy. Davis Warren did have one, but J.J. McCarthy made several impressive on-the-dot, on target, in stride, deep passes, which I love because Michigan's wide receiver core, despite the fact that, yes, it is underutilized, and it probably will be underutilized for the entire year, even with McCarthy at QB, whereas the offensive line and running back room will be perfectly utilized. When you have the talent that this Michigan offense has, you're going to likely be underutilizing one position. And knowing Jim Harbaugh, it will probably be wide receiver. But with McCarthy, we're going to better utilize it than we would with Cade, just because of McCarthy's better passing ability. So you're going to see Ronnie Bell, Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, Eric All, Donovan Edwards even, who's, can really, truly be a wide receiver with his catching and receiving ability out of the backfield, lined up as a receiver. And he's a great running back, too. He's just an overall elite running back, or running back with elite potential. So you're going to see more of a passing threat from Michigan, too, because of that. Just better overall talent and athletic ability. Michigan's offense all around was explosive and efficient, and it should be against a team like Hawaii. If it wasn't, like if the same red zone issues against Colorado State happened here, boy, I would be concerned. I would be concerned for Michigan State. I might even be a little concerned for Penn State, who historically cannot win and does not do well in a full big house. And of course, if we had those same issues against Hawaii that Michigan had against Colorado State, I'd be very concerned for Ohio State, whose defense has stepped up and whose offense, while they have taken a step back, I think that their offense will get back on track, and they still have great offensive weapons. And newsflash, they can run the ball better than they did last year. So seeing near perfect execution and efficiency by the starting lineup is very encouraging, especially when this past weekend, or 2 weekends ago now would be more appropriate, that the offense was not being efficient and they were not executing at a high level at times. So encouraging to see that growth there. And the Wolverines, along with the Buckeyes, because I just mentioned the Buckeyes, they have separated themselves from the rest of the Big Ten, in my opinion. And it's 2 games in, and Notre Dame losing to Marshall means that Ohio State's close win over them now should be watched with some closer attention. But Michigan and Ohio State are both efficient. They're improving in the areas that they lacked from last year, while not taking too far steps back in the areas where they excelled last year. Michigan's defense doesn't look like it has taken much of a step back. If you compare Michigan's cupcake games to their present cupcake games, defense is performing pretty similar, but the offense has improved, I would say, more noticeably than the defense has taken a step back. Ohio State, the offense has taken a noticeable step back, but the defense is more than overcompensated for that by taking a massive step forward. There's a chance that both of these teams can be both better than their last year counterparts. The rest of the Big Ten, Michigan State, they had an impressive win over Akron in some sense, but Peyton Thorne doesn't look like last year's edition of him. Went 0 of 2 through 2 picks against Akron. They struggled against Western Michigan, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Illinois, Northwestern, and Iowa. I mean, the majority of the Big Ten West is already out of the contention race in itself. Minnesota seems to be the only team there who has a real shot to do anything, in my opinion. Penn State did not look good against Purdue. They have a test against Auburn, though, and I think that'll show whether they are a team who can be top 25 or whether they are a pretender in the top 25 altogether. Maryland, Rutgers, and Indiana just don't have the overall talent to truly be contenders. So Ohio State and Michigan, they are up there. They are the tier 1 of the conference right now. They have separated themselves, and with what they have improved, the game at the end of the year looks like it's going to be a top 4 matchup. And I would actually say, with the way these two programs are going and how they'll probably improve as the year goes on, it could be a top 3 matchup. Or with how bad Alabama looked against Texas at times, and I know Texas, I probably underrated them in a certain sense. Gary Patterson, really, Steve Sarkisian, having him on the staff, that was a genius move by Sark, in my opinion, in retrospect. So Texas is much better than I anticipated them to be, but Alabama's Alabama. They out-talent Texas, they out-coach Texas, they're better in every way, and they barely beat them. And their offensive line did not look good. Their receivers were dropping passes. Michigan might have a better wide receiver core than Alabama. That sounds like heresy, but watch the Texas game, and that statement might actually have some merit to it, because Bryce Young was making plays, showing us why he's the Heisman, and Jahmyr Gibbs looked like the best receiver on the field. He's a running back, and he was the best receiver on the field for Alabama. A different conversation, but Alabama might be worse than both Ohio State and Michigan. That might be bold, but only time will tell. It looks like Georgia right now is the number one. Ohio State and Michigan, if the season is to continue exactly like it is right now, it's likely going to be a top 3 matchup. It could be a top 2 matchup even. That would be awesome. A top 2 matchup to determine the Big Ten East champions, and 99% sure that would determine the Big Ten champion overall. But Michigan still has not been tested yet. Michigan's schedule is weak. It's one of the weakest, if not the weakest schedule in the Big Ten now, that Nebraska and Iowa, who looked like tough teams or potentially tough teams, have really been exposed as weaker teams and soft. Both will probably have losing records by the end of the year, where I thought that both would have winning records. And at Iowa is always tough, but with that offense and with what Iowa State did to them, and Iowa State's very limited, it's real bad news for Iowa. And Michigan hasn't been tested yet, and we need to learn more about this team. And the schedule, like with Iowa and Nebraska, it seems to be getting lighter and lighter. Michigan State looks about how I expected them to look from the beginning of the season. I will admit, much better run game, better run block, about the same pass block that I expected, and about a similar, or I'd actually say worse drop-off by Thorne than I thought he would. But the run game for State looks solid. The front seven, solid. Definitely one of the better front sevens in the country, like I expected. And the secondary's been playing a little better than I expected them to. So Michigan State, that part of the schedule got tougher. Penn State, the jury's still out on them, in my opinion. I think that they're a little better than maybe I thought, or similar. But Iowa and Nebraska, I had Nebraska as a top 10 team, and I had Iowa as a team who was 7-5, but was going to look much better and just more tough and better at the lines, better in the trenches than they do now. And both of those teams, my goodness, they're much worse than I thought they were going to be. They are so much worse. Iowa looks like a 3-9 team. Iowa looks like they could be a repeat of last year's Nebraska team, where their defense keeps them in every game almost to a fault, and they win and they lose 9 games by single digits, because that's how good the Iowa defense is, and the Iowa offense is just a war crime. They are a living, walking war crime. That's what Iowa's offense is. And Nebraska, don't even get me started on how bad that defense is. But much like Iowa's defense, Nebraska's offense, that's an offense that can score on anyone, in my opinion, even with their struggles in the trenches. But Michigan's schedule seems to be getting lighter, and Michigan's doing well. They're doing everything they should be doing and more. So I think that for the Wolverines, the future is bright. They just have to keep winning games, keep looking efficient, and when the test comes, that's when we're going to know if this team is a true top 4, top 3, maybe even top 2 team. And if they pass, then there's the check mark for that. And if they lose a game before the OSU game, we know that that's probably not the case. But it looks like Columbus is going to be the first and final exam for this team. And that's where I'm going to end this video off. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts on this video down below. Join this awesome community where it is mainly focused on the Big Ten. We love conversation. I'm going to try and reply to your guys' comments down below because I love talking college football with y'all. And if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys around. Bye.